The Castillo Protocol,
Hello, bruv.
the Callisto Protocol, has a wide range of difficulties that you can choose to play on. There's maximum security, which was the hardest mode available when the game came out, and if you fancy more of a challenge, there's hardcore mode. Finally, if you don't value your sanity whatsoever, there's Contagion Mode. Contagion Mode increases the overall difficulty of the zombies and decreases the spawn rate for both ammunition and healing items, which doesn't help when you have to deal with enemies like this.
Oh shit.
Contagion Mode also throws an element of permadeath into the mix. What I mean by this is if you die during a run, you'll reset back to the beginning of the last chapter. So after my recent video completing the Dead Space Remake's hardest trophy, in today's video I'll be getting the trophy for completing the Callisto Protocol's hardest mode. But wait. That's right, the developers decided to add an extra level of pain. The You Belong Here trophy requires you to complete the entire 6-hour-long game without dying once. So this should be fun. We begin our story watching the news about a terror attack that's just happened on Europa. This is where we're introduced to Jacob, who is actually Josh Duhamel from the original Transformers film. Jacob and his buddy Max are just trying to make a living out in space being delivery boys, but after being alerted by a warning light, we discover that whatever cargo we're delivering has gotten us boarded by the Outer Way. They're a group of space pirates from the news report and led by Danny Nakamura. We attempt to flush the attackers out of the airlock, but Danny decides to shoot the glass leading to the cockpit. This causes the ship to return to its last delivery site and crash land on Callisto, Jupiter's dead moon, which is actually a real place it turns out. Callisto is a prison moon run by the UJC, a company that owns Black Iron Prison. So being a correctional facility, we should be able to explain the situation pretty easily and be back on our way. But no, we're falsely imprisoned by the UJC and thrown into a cell to rot. Jacob wakes up in his cell and he is now in a living nightmare. There are flames and debris all around the prison, but after leaving his cell and having a walk around, we are introduced to Elias. He trades a sharpened spanner in exchange for us opening his cell, meaning that we must now head to the central control room to free him. Breaking into the control room, we are jumped by 2 prisoners and have to take them out before being introduced to the main enemy of the game, the biophage. Throughout my previous playthroughs of this game, I found that the only real play here is to dodge their swings like Ben Whittaker. Until you see an opportunity to melee. This is even more important on the harder modes because ammo is so hard to come by. But on Contagion Mode, these mutated zombies are real motherfuckers to kill. Meeting back up with the now liberated Elias, he has an escape plan for the prison, which sounds good to us. So the first step is to regroup at the watchtower. To do that though, we have to traverse the depths of the prison. After descending, instead of ascending an elevator, we arrive in solitary. Here we are forced to sneak past one of the prison's security terminators. And yeah, just remember these guys for later. We reach the armory, which has already been raided for weapons, but we are able to swap our hammer for a dead guard stun baton, and get to test it out on a willing volunteer, which appears from a grate in the floor. It doesn't take us long to reach the watchtower, but instead of finding Elias, we run into Captain Ferris, who catches us sneaking around and blames us for starting the outbreak.
You crash here, and then this whole place goes to shit.
With some quick thinking, Jacob opens the door to the watchtower, releasing the zombies that spear the guard through the window.
That was easy.
Up ahead, Elias has found a safe room, and it's here we're able to print our first weapon, the hand cannon, while also making a discovery about Contagion Mode. So selling is not worth as much. That's so weird. Throughout the next part of the story, we're able to pick up one of those gravity restraint projectors which Ferris had, which we're just going to refer to as Grip to make it sound better. So after gearing up, it's time to head to the SHU to free another prisoner, who is apparently a profound hacker that Elias believes will be useful during our escape. Before we can do that though, we have to get past the game's first tricky part. This section involves you fending off waves of zombies while you wait for the doors to open to another control room. On Contagion Mode, where zombies take around 15 melees to take down, being in a room full of spilling blades and a lot of zombies isn't always easy. Luckily though, I managed to get through this first time and only got hit once. And we do make it to the next cutscene where Danny, the space pirate from before, pulls the old switcheroo on us and throws us into her cell. Before we can go any further though, this happens. Oh my god, what the fuck? It turns out the developers of the Callisto Protocol also worked on the Dead Space games, and to avoid anybody scum saving and closing the game just before a death, if you leave the game, or in my case the game crashes, it is treated like a death and you are reset back to the beginning of the last chapter. This does mean that we have to do the whole of chapter 3 again, and we arrive just after seeing Ferris being taken out. As I've already completed this section before, it didn't actually take me that long to get back to my previous point, and after being switcherooed again, we are sent down into the depths of the prison and have to sneak past another security droid. Now please bear in mind that while going for this game's platinum, I had to do a medium security run, a new game plus run, a hardcore run, and a new game plus hardcore run. And in absolutely zero of those playthroughs has this robot ever turned around or spotted me before reaching the combat area.
Unauthorized enemy detected.
Maybe I was in sheer disbelief from being spotted, but for some reason I decided to break cover and see whether he can really shoot me through the grates, and you can probably guess what happens next.
What the fuck?
Resume.
Using what I'd learned thus far, during my second run, my new tactic was to upgrade the stun batton's damage stats and swing velocity, as well as the grip's recharge and battery, while conserving as much ammo as possible to use in the later boss fights. It was all going quite well, and I got back to the blender room in record time. However, I really should have listened to Zenyatta when he said,
"Overconfidence is a flimsy shield."
because while trying to keep some grip, battery and reserve, this happened. Fuck me, I can't believe that just happened. So, as I loaded up my third run, I knew that it was time to be a pussy. This involves only attacking when there's a clear opportunity, only shooting during boss fights, and upgrading the baton and the grip as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So after a quick 45 minutes following my own footsteps, we easily breeze through the blender room and upgrade my baton to break zombies' arms when they block. And then we finally successfully defeat the Terminator.
Immobilized.
This leads us to the beginning of Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is where the game starts to get a little tougher. The first section sees you descend into waste processing. It is in waste processing that we're introduced to a new variant of the biophages, the Rusher. This creepy long-legged creature loves to sneak up on you by crawling around on the walls and the ceiling, and oh yeah, they can also go invisible. Invisible spider zombies aren't the only thing you have to watch out for in this chapter though. So this is where the game is about to get a lot harder. These enemies are going to start mutating, and I can't really shoot them because I need the ammo later. Now, the regular biophages are granted the ability to mutate further and become even harder to kill. This turns Jacob's attacks from a Mike Tyson punch into a Beetlejuice punch. Chapter 4's cherry on the cake is definitely the water slide section. As you enter the drainage pipe, you are flushed away and forced to navigate the treacherous tunnel filled with environmental hazards. Now, dodging attacks in this game is pretty easy. All you have to do is hold your left analog stick either left or right, making sure to remember not to dodge the same way twice. However, when it comes to dodging the hazards on the water slide, you actually have to aim for the safe spot. This proved to be harder than expected after Jacob decided that he would like to experience how fruit feels when it becomes a smoothie. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Fuck. Fucking dicks. Fucking balls. Fuck.
Shit.
So once again, it was back to the beginning. In my Dead Space video, I died 3 times in the entire run, and at this point in the Callisto Protocol, I was already on my 4th run, and I couldn't even pass what I considered the halfway point. After a good night's sleep, I picked up the game once again. My Contagion experience so far, as well as my previous playthroughs, had me feeling confident as I began my monster run. This time, when approaching the fan section that ended me last time, I managed to successfully avoid all the environmental hazards and make it through. Yes, we done it! That's not the end of the chapter though. We then had to make our way through oxygen processing, as well as the garden filled with rushers on the way to the utility room. Oh, look at him. Look at him in his tree. Piss off. Before finally catching up with Elias and making it to Chapter 5. Chapter 5 was a lot more straightforward. Jacob and Elias head out of the prison into the frozen wasteland to try and make it to the hangar to cool down the spare ship from orbit. Unfortunately, a mutated version of Captain Ferris shows up and ruins the fun, and the two are separated. We find Elias with his emergency beacon activated, but it's too late for him. Danny turns up just in time to show off her new toy and leave us to fend for ourselves in the middle of the storm. Chapter 5 was a very short chapter. After searching through the frozen wasteland, we find Danny and must take out some zombies before heading off to the hangar to cool down the spaceship from orbit. As a thanks for saving her, we receive her riot gun, a pump action shotgun which will come in useful very soon. Unfortunately, as we reach the top of the hangar, we find out that leaving Callisto isn't going to be that easy. The warden of Black Iron Prison projects himself and orders the anti-air guns to shoot down Jacob and Danny's only ticket to freedom. This in turn causes the ship to crash land into the hangar, sending us spiralling down into another environmental hazard section. This section really wasn't as bad when compared to the water slide section from the previous chapter. With only a few movements from left to right, we are able to grab onto a hanging beam and swing into the building and straight into chapter 6.
Yes. That would have been a sad failure.
Chapter 6 is probably the longest and most stressful chapter of the game, mainly because there is roughly 2 hours left before finishing the game, and it is a very stealth heavy chapter. If you've watched any of my Tomb Raider videos, you'll know that stealth is not really my forte. However, after already dying in this mode 4 times, I knew it was the only way forward, because chapter 6 introduces the blinds. As their name suggests, these blind zombies are sensitive to touch and sound, and if you let one of them even touch you, they will swarm you, which is a definite run-ender. So after crawling through the introductory part of the chapter, slaughtering a population of blinds, Joe Rogan would be proud of the way that I was waiting for these creatures' backs and then taking them out. Eventually, after turning the power back on and managing to successfully sneak past a section where the blinds are actively cheating the system.
Normally they all spawn and you can kind of sneak away from them. There's going to be 2 guys that come out of there and 3 other guys. So as soon as they spawn, you've just got to sprint to that hole. Now. Yes! We're in.
We then reached by far the hardest part of the game. The platform ride is where all hell breaks loose. After activating the platform, you are met by a horde of pre-mutated zombies which can overwhelm you if you're not careful. To top this all off, if you can make it past the swarm of zombies, you are met by the Two-Head, the strongest enemy in the game.
Here we go. This is the deciding point.
Thankfully, up to this point, I've been collecting ammo for both the riot gun and the hand cannon, which meant that I only had to concentrate on the occasional dodge and then unload everything I had. Maybe this was the best tactic ever created, because it didn't take long for the Two-Head to fall.
Yeah! Got him! Woo!
Which brings us on to Chapter 7, Colony. Chapter 7 is pretty much an extension of the previous chapter, by means of a lot more stealthing around and taking out blind zombies, while you crawl around the old mining colony of Arcus, while trying to get back to Black Iron Prison to use the escape pods to leave Callisto for good. We make our way to the top of the tower to find Danny locked in a trance, downloading a miner's memories, but while we're trying to wake her up, she goes mental and attacks us. Before she can do any damage though, another Two-Head shows up and we have to take it out. From my previous experiences, I knew that this mini boss fight was coming, hence not really using any ammunition up to this point, and wouldn't you know, round 2 with the Two-Head goes in our favour once again.
Yes! He's dead again!
I strongly believe that if you can get past chapter 6, you can 100% beat this game. So as we make our way back to re-enter Black Iron Prison, we run into an old friend.
Oh no! Not this fucking guy.
Here we need to channel our inner Ben Whittaker once again and dodge each of his attacks before seizing the opportunity to strike, and after a few rounds with Ferris we're able to escape, but Danny gets face-hugged in the process. We finally get back to the prison, but we're knocked out and thrown back in our original cell by one of the Terminators.
At least he didn't one-shot me this time.
Now that we're in the final chapter of the game, Dr. Marla gets in contact and tells us to meet up with her because she can save Danny from becoming a biophage. So once again, we walk out of our cell and head through the psych ward to find them. Playing through this game so many times, you do pick up some tactics along the way.
So, we can kind of see him from here, so we need to headshot him. And then he's going to come out of this vent. We can fuck him up. Without the other guy getting wise. 1, 2, 3, fuck him up.
At this point in the story, with the end within touching distance, I was not taking any chances, and I was happy to use some of my hand cannon ammo to stop the zombies from mutating. At about 5.5 hours in, we finally meet up with Marla and find her in a testing lab. She is actually trying to cure Danny, but to fully cure her, we need to get a blood sample from Subject Alpha, so that's who we're looking for next. We make it to what is essentially a prep room for the final boss fight. What we did here is make a load of last minute upgrades to our guns, as well as buying as much ammo as we can hold. And then it was time to enter the location for our final showdown. At last, we meet the Warden, and he reveals his plan to continue testing the biophage pathogen on different planets around the galaxy, and then he reveals that Subject Alpha is no other than Captain Ferris. This boss fight sees two different forms of Captain Ferris. We saw his first form in the previous chapter, but after you hit him a few times, he mutates into some kind of monster. With plenty of ammunition remaining, I made sure to watch out for the crawling bomb zombies, and when it was safe to attack, I would unload the riot gun into Ferris's weak spot. But then, of course, this happened.
No! 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 Fucking hell! Fucking aimed instead of dodged! Oh! No!
Even after watching the footage back, I'm still not entirely sure how this happened. Past me would definitely agree, but I think that I released the aim trigger too early and then tried to fire the riot gun, which caused Jacob to swing his stun baton instead, which meant that I was unable to dodge Ferris's attack. So with that, depressed, we go again, and after 5.5 hours, we get back to the final boss fight, but this time I'll have to remember not to let go of the aiming trigger. And then finally.
Big ass titties!
Yes! Come on!
After God knows how many hours spent on this mode, we are finally gifted with our reward.
Give me them 2 motherfucking trophies. Right now.
If you've made it this far in the video, please drop a like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you'd like to see more painful trophies, check out this playlist.
Oh my god, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. That was fucking disgusting.